But now, should I put it on my phone up? Now, should I put it on my phone up? I'll just smile like an idiot in the meantime. As opposed to my regular smile. Look.
Hey, it's John McCabe. Welcome to the show.
Nice.
Hey, welcome to the John A. McCabe Show, where it's all about accelerating your authority in your business or field of expertise. And we do that by helping entrepreneurs, business owners, authors, experts, speakers get seen, get heard, get noticed on any device, anywhere, anytime,
it's okay to use
in
that
as little
video
as 15 hours,
even
also known
no.
as the Authority Acceleration Program. On today's show, Business Strategies Tuesday, my guest is someone who's the definition of consistent and persistent. And I'm sure he will never be described that way anywhere else again. And he's doing that mainly with webinars, but has started to incorporate Facebook Live into the mix. Now he's constantly closing on clients every single month in his webinars, where he continues to funnel leads and prospects. Now, I met Andy 2 to 3 years ago at a number of marketing events in San Diego, where we've been spending a lot of time over the last 5 years. We've both been part of the same mastermind and coaching group for a year, and at one point it seemed like we were in San Diego 5 times in less than 2 months. Now for Andy, making that 5 to 6 hour trip from New York, plus the time difference, is a huge commitment, especially being a husband and a father of 4 children. But in business, if you aren't consistently learning and growing and using the latest strategies, you can easily get left behind, or your business can slow dramatically. Now, webinars and webcasting is just one of the strategies Andy has incorporated into his business very effectively, and it's helped accelerate his authority. Now, the former lawyer is a 2-time #1 best-selling author, and one of those books is How to Pay Wholesale for College. It helps parents of college-bound teens pay for college without going bankrupt or vaporizing their entire retirement savings along the way. Now, most of his clients are the forgotten middle-class families who mistakenly thought they couldn't qualify for financial aid. Now, his services help level the playing field between overpriced, rip-off colleges and upper middle-class, even affluent families, including business owners, doctors, lawyers, CPAs, teachers, principals, divorced, separated families, and many others. Now, Andy delivers much of his content to these families in the form of live speaking and webinars. Now, where he successfully closes on clients each and every month. Now, Andy and his wife, Pearl, are conducting 2 to 3 webinars each month to answer questions, talk about changes to the system, and help parents get a clear understanding of what they're going to be faced with when they apply for their child to go to university. Then once a month, they funnel all the leads into a pre-recorded webinar that is set up and structured to sell their product and services to those same parents. Now, Andy and Pearl are consistently filling their lead funnel through a variety of different methods and strategies each and every week. But what remains consistent is their use of webinars to reach a wider audience across the country, their ability to educate as well as entertain the audience and deliver huge value through these webinars. So today, I'm going to get the inside scoop from Andy about how him and Pearl are effectively using webinars in their business, how they are structuring their content and delivering value, and also how they are able to close on business through pre-recorded webinars. So be sure to stick around, because when I come back, I'm going to be joined by my good friend, Andy Lockwood. Hey, and thanks for joining us today. I have a great guest today, someone who is being very successful using webinars as a main strategy for his business. It makes reaching his potential clients across the country so much easier. Plus, his potential clients get to interact with him and his wife, Pearl, during the sessions. Now, Andy Lockwood is a two-time #1 best-selling author, an attorney turned college funding expert who uses webinars to help parents of college-bound teens pay for college without going bankrupt or vaporizing their savings along the way. So please give it up with some likes, some love, shares, a virtual flurry of thumbs up and heart icons going across the screen for my good friend and guest today, Andy Lockwood. Hey, Andy, how you doing?
Hey, great introduction. Could not have written it better myself. Thank you.
Well, I think you did write it, but
it sounded familiar.
Yeah. So, I really don't want to do any of the work. I just ask the guests to send me information, and I make them do all the work, and I just plagiarize it. So that's okay, isn't it? We're talking to a college planner. It's okay if I plagiarize things.
There's a fine line between plagiarism and just borrowing. So
okay.
Don't be afraid to cross it.
Borrowing with permission.
Exactly.
So Andy's on today. We're going to talk about using webinars in your business and how to grow your business, build your authority, get your clients to know you, like you, and trust you, compressing that sort of cycle, so it's a lot less time for them to get to know you, like you, and trust you before they actually make a buying decision. So if you can compress that into an actual webinar and do it all in an hour, hour and a half to take them through that cycle and then get them to buy at the end, that's sort of the ultimate, really compressing that time frame. So, Andy, before we get too far in the interview, I know you've played along with some of the other guests before, but we like to do our speed rounds. And I still recall you playing along last week, and all of your answers had to do with me. But hopefully,
can we just skip that part? I mean, my answer is John McCabe. Every answer.
Okay, well, we're just going to go through the formality anyway.
Okay. Here's so.
Just maybe you'll actually come up with something insightful other than just telling everybody how great I am, because, we don't want that now.
Don't get your hopes up.
Okay. So for anyone watching out there, just play along with us if you want to. Put in your comments for the questions, and let's just see what Andy has to come up with. So quickly we'll run through these. So name the book that impacted your life the most.
So last time I said any book that you've written.
Okay.
I would say one of my favorite, probably most books written by Dan Kennedy, and even the Cialdini book, Influence or Persuasion or whatever. And he's got a new one out that I'm in the middle of. Those are both great.
Excellent. What when you were a young boy, who was your celebrity crush?
That's such an awkward question. Celebrity crush? I guess I like the Farrah Fawcett photo.
Nice. Yep. Yeah, I remember that poster.
Yeah.
Very much. So what is I think you just named it. What's the book, podcast, or show that you're into right now? You just named a book that you're into right now.
Yeah, I mean, I podcast, and I'm not like someone who listens regularly to podcasts, but I have, I really like the I Love Marketing one with Joe Polish and Dean Jackson. That's one of my favorite ones, but besides, of course, yours.
Of course. Are you currently working with any coaches?
No. Nope.
So you're just a little hiatus right now?
I just think I'm too good for any. No, yeah, just a little bit of lazy, a little bit cheap, a little bit of just busy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Smug.
What's your favorite movie of all time?
I think I would have to go with The Jerk by Steve Martin.
What? You didn't pick the movie that I was actually in?
Wasn't that about you? What do you mean?
I was in you didn't know I was in a movie with Sandra Bullock and Dennis Leary?
No, was that like an animated thing?
No, it was a real movie. It's called 2 If by Sea.
No, I didn't know that. Sorry.
You didn't know it? So I guess that's why it's not your favorite movie.
It's probably number 2.
Number 2. Gotcha. So you're not working with any coaches, but I believe you'd mentioned last week that you're involved in a mastermind?
Yeah, a couple of friends of mine and some other various sort of scattered, people get together once a month, and we're all sort of marketing focused, and all have belonged to other sort of masterminds or currently belong to other masterminds in the past, and so that's kind of it's a great group. It's like my favorite meeting all month.
Excellent. So name the person, either dead or alive, who you'd most like to meet and have dinner with.
Again, that would be John McCabe. But if I had to pick a second person, I would go with probably Steve Martin.
All right. Your favorite type of vacation, beach or adventure tour?
Neither. It's definitely not adventure tour. So if I had to pick one, it's beach.
Okay. So what type of vacations do you enjoy?
Family stuff where we're just sort of like renting a place and getting away. So it's can be beach-esque.
Okay. The best.
But we need other stuff to do. I mean, we can't just stay on the beach the whole time.
No, exactly.
Too hyper.
Best business advice you ever received?
I think that would be 80% of your time should be spent on marketing. That's Michael Gerber, the E-Myth.
Okay. And the last question, two-parter. Do you prefer water, beer, or wine? And is it pizza, wings, or salad?
Is there an all of the above option?
Just fill the table with everything.
Yeah, because it depends on the day. I would go for all. Literally, I would have all those all day if I weren't going to be 300 pounds.
And it depends on who's paying for the tab.
That is a big, yeah. So was lobster one of the choices?
No, but I think that's on Ed's tab, isn't it?
Yeah, sure.
No, Ed keeps taking us to the Top Gun bar where they serve fine cuisine.
Yeah, I think we had lasting memories from that one.
Yeah. So Andy, if you could just spend a few minutes just telling us sort of your origin story of how you actually transitioned from being a corporate attorney, into becoming someone helping kids get into college and helping them find the funding. So how did that sort of all transition? And basically tell us sort of your beginning starting point and the challenges you might have had up till today.
All right, I'll keep it brief because it's really kind of boring. Okay. But you did ask, so I went to law school knowing I wanted to be self-employed. I did not have any burning desire to practice law, but I did not want to get an MBA, and I figured I need some sort of training, which the jury's still out whether that really helped me. But I practiced law. I was working for a company after I left my law firm. That was a financial services company, publicly traded. We had Don Shula as our spokesperson, who's the NFL most winningest, that's a real word, coach. So that was kind of cool. But what happened right around 99 was that the market kind of fell apart, and we got sold to another company, which was great for me personally. I was making a lot more money, and then we got sold again like 8 weeks later or something ridiculous. And that second time, I knew I was not going to be long for the world, so I had I had an opportunity to kind of take some money off the table, and I started my own financial services company. And along the way, I went to a seminar to meet other lawyers in terms of like how to build their business, and it turned out to be a big sales pitch for a boot camp that this guy was offering, and he kept mentioning this book, The E-Myth, that I mentioned before. And I said, I'm not going to spend the $2,000 on the boot camp because he keeps mentioning this book. I'm going to read the book first. Read the book, realized that 80% of time needs to be spent in marketing. That's one of the core, sort of tenets. Yeah. And I said, I need to learn about marketing. So I gradually, pretty quickly found my way into the Dan Kennedy world of all those, around 2000. And I actually met a college planner from another part of the country who I ended up, licensing his system. And I bought it. It was like a high-end, sort of group coaching thing. Okay. And that's how I got in the business.
Excellent. So what year would that be?
I was about 2000, and
2000?
The rest of the story. One of the reasons it resonated with me is because I had $100,000 worth of debt between college and law school. Yeah. And that was awful. And kids today have like triple that amount.
Yeah. So you've been operating your current business since 2000, so just over 15, 16 years.
we're going on 16 years. I did not do it full time initially because it took me a while to really grasp that, you know, it was a real business. And then ultimately it got to the point where I took on a partner a few years later who was he and I were in Florida together, and then we moved to New York about 7 years ago, and a year later split the company up into New York and Florida. So now it's just me and my wife.
Excellent. So can you tell us a little bit about your decision to start using webinars? How long ago was it? Was it something that you just jumped right into, or did you transition into it over a period of time?
I jumped into doing videos, not live, but videos pretty quickly. And, you know, I spent some time noodling around with stuff like Trafficizer and, all, you know, the things that Mike Koenig stuff, which is how we met. And then in terms of live, I was not in that first wave, but I think I was in the second wave of people who bought, I think, Webinar Jam.
Okay.
And so that was, I don't know how long ago that was. It might have been 6 years ago or something like that, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I started, you know, messing around with webinars, but not regularly. I didn't really have confidence in how I was going to operate the technology and all that. So I had a lot of false starts to doing it.
Right. So talk a little bit about some of the early challenges or mistakes that you made doing webinars, and how did you overcome them? What advice do you give somebody who's just starting out, trying to incorporate webinars in their business now?
I made so many mistakes, and you know, some were self-inflicted. You know, some were technology things. I think since then, a lot of the technology has gotten better, and but there were times where I would start a webinar and no one could see me or no one could hear me or some combination of that, and we'd get all these, and it'd be really stressful because there'd be, you know, anywhere from 20 to 400, you know, people saying, "Hey, I can't hear this," you know, whatever. So that was, you know, extremely stressful, and I've broken equipment, you know, out of as opposed to trying to fix it, you know, just out of rage.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, the advice that I probably wouldn't have taken if I heard it was just understand that you're going to screw up and it's not that big a deal. And in fact, that can kind of build rapport with your audience if you do screw up, because they'll see that you're kind of human, and, you know, that they would do the same thing. And so the weird thing is sometimes they're sort of rooting, you know, for you on your side when that happens. But just practice, and even then something's going to go wrong.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, sort of, how did the audience take it when, you know, you either had to abruptly stop the webinar, or, you know, they just couldn't hear you and you just couldn't figure it out, so you just ended up sort of going back to the group and saying, "Hey, listen, sorry."
So it was always a good thing. I mean, there'd be like a few haters who'd be like, "This sucks," you know, get a real computer, you know, stuff like that, which, you know, it was annoying, but it's kind of funny, you know. And then, but for the most part, it would just give me another reason to kind of touch, you know, to say, okay, I did a video, it's recorded instead of the live one, you know, you can watch this instead, and then, you know, by the way, at the end I made an offer, and you can, you know, whatever. So it was just another way to sort of get in front of them. So it probably net worked out better.
Okay, excellent. So
I've never done it intentionally, though. Just saying.
Never done it. Yeah, no, it's bad enough when it happens unintentionally. You never want to do it intentionally, because I've had my mishaps many times over the past few years as well when it comes to doing stuff live. So Andy, what systems are you using right now for running your webinars? What kind of technologies need it? And can you fill the viewers in on either, you know, how easy is it or how complicated is it to get started? It sounds like it's a little bit easier now than it was back when you started.
Yeah, I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, in terms of my own competence with technology stuff, I'd say I'm somewhere around a 5. I mean, I'm not awful, but I'm really not that great. So we use Webinar Jam for most of the webinars that we do, and those involve people signing in and getting on my list and chatting and all that type of stuff. So we do those several times a month. Mostly, it's a combination of new and current clients. I've also been using Facebook Live, you know, so either directly with my phone, which is very easy, or with a system called OBS, Open Broadcast Software, that I actually learned about from Andy Falco.
Okay.
I don't know if he's on, but I'd like to at least make fun of him.
Yeah.
If opportunity presents.
I don't think I'm familiar with OBS.
Yeah, it's open software. You just download. It's free, and it works most of the time. It worked for me today. I did it. We do a weekly show every Tuesday, 12 Eastern,
Okay.
College Talk Tuesday. And so I do that, and then we use Entreport, as our CRM, which is kind of like Infusionsoft, but without as much attitude as Infusionsoft used to have.
Yeah. So I had Infusionsoft for a few months years ago, and it was just so complicated and just such a hard system to. And I'm like you. I'm about a 5 or a 6 when it comes to technology, and it's like I just don't get this. So I opted.
What do you use now?
Right now, I'm still using TPNI, but I'm about to transition into something else that I was given the name by Jason P. Jordan and John North, but I just can't remember. It's very similar to Infusionsoft. However, it comes with 1/4 of the price point. It has all that same functionality. So I'm looking at investigating that right now. But right now, it's just TPNI and some MailChimp stuff. But I'm going to be I'm transitioning over. I'm going to be moving over all of my phone numbers to Twilio.
That's so much work.
Yeah, it's such a pain. But anyway, so I know from doing webcasts and webinars myself that it's really less about the technology and more about what you say and how you say it. Can you expand a little bit about the structure of the content for your shows, or maybe the show flow, or when you're putting together a webinar, especially the ones where you plan to sell like some of your services? I know that you do a couple different types, but first let's just talk about the ones where you do a weekly, and then we'll talk about the ones that you do sort of once a month, where you actually it's more of a geared towards selling, because the weekly one is more geared towards answering questions. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's answering questions. It's all about, like you said, it's the authority. All this stuff, first and foremost, builds authority, whether it's, on Facebook or whether it's a webinar, or I do a lot of live speaking, in front of smaller groups. Mm-hmm. All that's done to sort of position myself and for my wife to position herself as, people who, know what we're talking about. And then on top of that, to attract people who see that we're kind of relaxed and we're taking, some of the stress out of the process. And also, which I think is equally important, you didn't mention this, is it repels the people that we don't want as clients. And that is really important, because where we are in Long Island, New York, where most of our clients are from, we have New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and then we have all over the world, I guess. But I'd say 70% is sort of local. There's a lot of uptight, parent entitled kids and stuff that we don't want. So it's all done to do that. The weekly stuff is really a combination of answering questions, or presenting something that's timely. So today we actually did one on the dangers of helicopter parenting. Parents who hover over their kids and they do everything for them. Yeah. Just because we have some examples. It's so easy to pull from our own practice examples of stuff to talk about forever and ever.
Yeah. So. On those ones that you're actually doing the question and answer, do you have a specific structure that you follow, or you just get in there and just you have a couple things you want to talk about, but mostly it's just really answering questions from the audience?
So you and I kind of learned a lot of the show flow, show structure stuff from Mike Koenigs, and I think a lot of that plus other stuff I've read has been kind of I've just sort of absorbed. Right. So the structure, if that's what it should be called, is really 80% content, 20% some sort of offer. We always make some kind of offer, even if it's only something like go to our website for a list of upcoming live presentations. Right. So and then if it's questions, it's just very easy just to go back and forth. It really helps having a co-host, which is just more interesting in terms visually. I think my wife is just more interesting than I am also. And you were kidding me about this before, because I told you this last week. Like I'll do these live presentations, and face to face, not webinar things. And more often than not, someone will come up to me and be like, "Oh, I've been watching your webinars for years. They're great and whatever. And where's Pearl?" Or and I should have. I think it's been thrown out. But we get these comment cards. I ask people to fill out a questionnaire every time they finish up with us at a live workshop, and I always ask, like, would you like, what could we improve? And 2 people last time said, in terms of how could we improve it, it was bring Pearl, which is nice. Kind of a left-handed compliment. I don't know.
Exactly. So obviously that makes Pearl feel good.
Oh, I didn't tell her.
Oh, you didn't tell her. Okay.
All right, fine. Like, I may have mentioned it.
Yeah. So the ones that you actually once a month or so you do them where you're more or less you're selling your services. Now those ones, I think, do you have more of a plan in mind? Is it more, talk us about the content that you would talk about on the ones where you're actually asking people to either buy into your program or buy your consulting services.
Well, the similarities between the two is I'm always going over stuff that we know are the problems of our audience, which is parents with college-bound teens.
Right.
And we know their stress points because we're constantly asking them. We constantly do presentations. There's a lot of give and take. So I really feel like we know our audience really, really well. I'm sure there's room for improvement, but I've been basically doing the same thing over and over again for like 8 years. So hopefully there's not a ton of room for improvement, at least that way.
Yeah.
So in terms of structuring it for a presentation, it's a little more structured. I'll do slides. We'll have make sure the offer for whatever we're offering, whether it's a consultation, it's free if you book today, otherwise $249, or if we're offering a service or a product like, hey, we'll prepare your financial aid forms, here's the discount, it's good through the weekend or something like that. We always try to get that up there within the first half hour. So we were taught that way. And in terms of opening, teach for about 20 minutes, take a break, soft close, answer questions, resume teaching. It is structured a little bit, but not. I wouldn't say it's definitely outlined, but it's not scripted. And I definitely could. I feel like I could improve on the scripting of it, but the outlining I think is pretty good. And usually we're pretty happy with the results.
Excellent. So Andy, let's talk a little bit about some of the stats that you have for your webinars for your business. Do you know any of the conversion rates that you're getting? For example, what percentage of the people that go to the registration page are opting in, and what percentage are showing up, and what percentage stay through the whole thing, and then what percentage end up buying? Are you guys tracking that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely could be a lot better about paying attention to that stuff, but Webinar Jam lets you do all that. It's very easy. So typically, the sign-up rate of people who hit the page compared to who actually sign up is usually higher than whatever the conversion is on that template. Like Webinar Jam says, you can pick a template for your sign-up page, and you can choose it by highest converting.
Right.
And sometimes the highest converting is like 40%, and we'll get like 105%, which I don't. Again, I think there's something wrong with that, but either people are signing up multiple times, which I don't think, or there's something wrong, or people who auto-subscribed to my, from a previous webinar, that's an option. Maybe they're being counted in there.
Yeah.
So that makes me think, okay, that's not so useful. So anyway, that's one stat. And then in terms of, it's funny. So when we, I think when you and I were taught, when we, one of the classes we took together, I think we were hammered home the point to make it live and don't necessarily tell them there's going to be a replay or, and then later you can say it's an encore. So I did that for a while. And when it was cold traffic, I was having a hard time getting 30 to 40% people to show up. And when I was doing it to my list, it was a little bit better. But then I came across something else somewhere that I read, and the guy said something like he gets most of his... sometimes doubles his attendance rate through the replay. So what I switched to doing was saying, okay, sign up now, and if you miss it, if you can't make it, sign up anyway, because I'll have the replay running through the weekend.
Right.
And so I'll do it on a Thursday, and then that allows me Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to remind them about the webinar, answer some questions that came up and make more offers. So it might be 40% initially, and then I may pick up literally another 25, 30 or more percent. So it could be 70, 75% total of the people who register. So if it's like, if I'm on a good day for me, I'll get 400 to 500 people registering for a webinar, and I might get, 3/4 of them. And then out of that, depending on what I'm offering, I may only get, mean, if I'm offering a consult, I get a much higher conversion.
Right.
I might get 10%, a lot. But if I'm offering a service or something, it might be 5%, 3%. It really depends. But like I was saying before, I think in terms of the authority that it creates, I almost care more about that, because when I actually sit down with someone, and I'm selling a very high end coaching thing,
right.
So people pay me between $2,500 to $10,000 depending on the services and how long we're working with them. So when I sit down with someone for the first time that I've never met them, but they tell me, which happens all the time, I've been getting your webinars, I've been getting your emails, I saw you speak live a couple of times. It's like it's like a cumulative type of thing. Yeah. And then it's very easy for them to write a check for $5,000 or whatever. That's what I really like. When people say that they've seen me or they got my my webinar passed to them by a friend or all this other type of stuff. So that's part of it. I just can't track it.
Yeah. So it's really the amount of the authority that you're building throughout the time of actually doing the webinars makes the actual sales process or the closing at the end that much easier, where people they've made that buying decision over time. It's not that during that one hour or 1.5 hours you're getting them to enroll in a $10,000 coaching program. So, it's over time, and they just keep seeing this stuff over and over and over and subscribing. And they know that they actually have to take some sort of action because their children are of a certain age.
Right.
That during that, when they're ready to actually take action, it's much easier. It's a much easier sell for you than, say, if you're just meeting somebody and, within an hour you're trying to close them.
I mean, I'll give you a quick story, and before I do that, though, your point is it just makes me think, like, I could probably be less of a wuss and try to close people on high-end coaching right there, and I've done a few things like that. I've done some $5,000 programs. I probably picked up 4 or 5 of those over the summer, when I just launched sort of a soft group coaching thing. Yeah. So I think that's got, I want to revisit that, but the time of year for me right now is not really right to be doing that. But So I have a client who hired me a couple of weeks ago, for the higher end of that range that I gave you, and she said, I saw you at the blah 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 library 2 years ago, and when my oldest daughter was in 9th grade, and I went because I heard about you from the library, from the school or something, and I was looking in the front row at all these moms who had older kids, and the looks on their faces were so stressed out and they were so tense, and I said to myself, I'm not going to be one of those ladies, And so then when so I've been on your webinars, I've seen you speak again, and then, now I'm here, and, I know that you can really help us, and I'm hoping that, you can take us on as clients, because that's another thing. I always position it, again, this is stuff we've been taught. I always position them coming to me as if, I believe it actually, so it's not really a positioning thing, but I position it as if I'm the college they're applying to, for me to take them on. And I really want that to be the case, because I don't want to work with a kid who's not going to be coachable. That's really going to be annoying for me. The parents are going to blame me. They're going to pay me all this money. So it's a no-win for me. But that's the best case of how it works when they say things back to me that I've engineered.
Yeah. So not only are you screening through your copy and the content that you're putting out there, but it's almost like you have a screening process or an application process when somebody actually wants to work with you as well.
That application process is part of the authority positioning and part of them, buying in, taking more micro commitment type steps, which is the Cialdini term and probably many others, in order to move closer to wanting me. And I use a lot of sort of takeaway selling too. I say I only take on a finite amount of kids, and I want to make sure they're the right fit, because my worst nightmare is that parents love me and I love the parents, but the kid takes this advice that costs the parents a lot of money, and receives the advice but doesn't implement the advice that costs the parents a lot of money, right. And everyone's mad at me, and it's not my fault, and I'm mad at the kid, and it's like pounding a square peg to a round hole. Yeah. I don't need to do that. I have 4 kids of my own. If I want to fight with kids, I can do that at home.
Exactly.
For free.
Yeah. You don't get paid to fight with your own kids, though.
I pay to.
You pay to.
Yeah, they're a liability.
So we were just talking about some of your products and the price point. So can you fill us in on sort of what the range of your products or services are that you're actually selling through the webinar. Maybe just go through, the different ones that you have available. Do you have like information products? Is it all just sort of one-on-one consulting or high-end coaching? Sort of, can you just give us an idea what kinds of things that you're actually selling through the webinar?
Yeah. So first and foremost, the free consult is definitely the main thing, because that's looking for high-end clients. Okay. We call it a college strategy session. And probably the second big thing that gets response is we've tried to sort of carve up parts of what we do for consulting. We've tried to 20 to 40 a year, at different times in the year. I don't always offer because I'm concerned it's going to take away from, our consulting. But right. That's just, money. It's more of a drop-down offer for people who don't take us up on the higher-end stuff. Right. And then I have another product, which is, the incomparable applicant, which is how to get into college. And it's, again, a similar instruction. Can I tell you one last thing that I just remembered?
Yeah, definitely go into it. We got still got some time here.
So the other thing that we just started playing around with was the Mevo. I don't know if you have one of these yet.
No,
have you
I
seen
don't
these
have
things?
one. No.
So this is literally a camera. It's a Mevo camera, yeah. And it lets you live stream right to Facebook. So and probably other places. And what I've done is I've taken that with me. So if I'm speaking at a library or something, and there's 20 or hopefully 40, 50 people there, I can expand my reach by just setting that thing up. It's not too obtrusive, so so it's not like people can't see because they're not blocked out by that. Right. And so I'll do that. I've been doing that a lot. Tonight I was joking. I'm speaking to a local chapter of the National Association of Accountants or something, and I'm saying this today on our Facebook show, and my wife's like, "Oh, sounds like a real fun bunch." I said, "Yeah, I think that should be as interesting as like watching C-SPAN or something." So, but I'm going to bring it, just to expand my reach.
So you're incorporating that. You're doing it not only doing the webcast, but you've started using Facebook Live as well. Can you talk a little bit about your strategy in using the Facebook Live? Because I've seen you use Facebook Live at the same time you're actually doing a webcast.
Yeah, that was hard.
So I was just going to ask you, how are you managing the chat in both and the feed? Obviously, it's not a selling webinar. It's sort of the Q&A style. But how are you guys actually managing that?
Well, we tried it once. I don't think we had enough bandwidth. I think you actually were on that one. Yeah. You told me that it was breaking up. That was like the worst looking one. Even though this thing has its own hotspot, I guess we still somehow using our bandwidth. I don't really understand it all. Yeah. So that didn't work out too well. So we haven't done that since. But the idea was I did this a couple of times where before we went live on a scheduled webinar through our system where people have to register. We kind of popped on a live Facebook stream.
I remember that one. You were just going around your home, right? People were getting ready for the show. Yeah,
yeah, blindsiding my wife and her sister, who's with us, and our live audience member of one. And it's just kind of a fun thing because people, we got a lot of, in terms of strategies. I just saw someone else doing it. I thought that, hey, that'd be kind of cool. Maybe I can pick up a few views. Yep. It got shared like crazy compared to some of our other stuff. So I look at it right now, and this is evolving, at least with me. I'm not paying a ton of attention to it, other than I know a lot of my audience is on Facebook. A lot of moms, of college-bound teens, and that gets shared around. And it's, we've boosted 1 or 2 posts, which is really inexpensive and supposedly gets you in front of thousands of people. I don't know if I really believe the stats, but the strategy is really just to expand reach. And I keep getting this, anecdotal feedback from people like, I'll speak live, which I think is the most effective thing. I just, I'm too lazy to do it all the time. And I'll say how many people have seen us, seen our web stuff, and usually half the room has.
So now you can actually use it and incorporate it into your live events. So not only are you just reaching the 40 people in the room, but now you can stream it live to Facebook to potentially pick up another audience, as well as, it's just getting in front of people on a consistent, persistent basis, being in the forefront of their mind all the time, and constantly building and accelerating that authority, which is really, when it comes to building and growing your business, the faster you can accelerate your authority so that you're recognized and known by a larger audience, the easier it's going to be to generate sales and to do business.
And some of the best things are when other people comment. And like I had, we posted one from we simulcast last week.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe that's her. And so annoying. I don't even know how to shut that off. That's helpful though, right?
Yeah.
So we had someone say to me on Facebook who'd went to that that event. They posted, I went to this event that was simulcast. It was great. I recommend everyone should see it. That was very, very cool. We get comments like that every once in a while from people who've been on the Facebook Live stuff.
Yeah, excellent. Social proof is huge, and it's just definitely going to increase your exposure that much more. So there must be certain times of the year though when college admission is on every family's mind, and the kids that are eligible for college and the university and getting into university. So do you ramp up the webinar frequency during those times to attract, because everyone's thinking about it, they're probably searching online, trying to find financial aid or whatever. Do you ramp it up trying to broaden your exposure during those times of the year?
Yeah, that'd be pretty smart now that you mention it. The answer is
it's what I got paid for.
Yeah, God, beautiful, genius. I think the answer is in more or less we do, but ramping up first and foremost the live speaking stuff, because I get at this point a lot of schools and libraries invite me to speak. It's not me reaching out to them as much as it used to be. So I'm just looking at my calendar over here, and I have in October 4 live events, pretty much one a week, and then November I've got 6, and September, which we're finishing up, I think I'll have 6 also. So this is kind of, fall is definitely busy. Spring is also kind of busy just for different reasons. Summer is not as busy, although we market all year round, so we don't really see a dip in terms of revenue because we pick up different people at different parts of the timeline. Right. So sometimes in the school year timeline, people are more focused on doing all the financial aid stuff, the payment stuff, and other times it's more about, I have no idea what schools to even look at for my kid. Is he possibly going to even be able to get in anywhere? So it's different things, different messages.
Okay. Do you? I just had a thought in my mind and it just escaped me.
Is that you calling me?
No, I wasn't calling you. Oh, yeah. Now I remember what it was. So, are you using the Amazon Prime book strategy for getting into any of these places? Sending them out to the schools, admissions, or the universities, or any of that to try to get them to invite you to speek?
Well, just to be clear, I would never send it to a college or a university because they hate me.
The high schools rather.
Yeah, I've done it very sparingly. I don't know if I've done that in about a year or so, and the reason for that. So you're talking about taking a copy of a book and having it sent right to the guidance counselor or something like that. Yeah. A lot of times guidance counselors feel threatened by outside consultants, and frankly, a lot of the parents that I see are with me because they feel shortchanged somehow by guidance counselors. So I actually spend a fair amount of time bashing guidance counselors in a nice way. That being said, one of the first comments we got on a Facebook Live video was from a college guidance counselor who said something like, I've been in the field 20 years, and Pearl and Andy really know their stuff, and blah blah blah. And like 2 weeks later, I got this most rabid hate email. You guys don't even know what the hell you're talking about, and yeah. So I haven't done that. I'd rather go right to the parents.
So what are the 5 methods? Can you come up with 5 different methods that you're using to drive the traffic to your webinars right now? So what are the main 5 that you're using?
Well, email first and foremost to my own list is the best way.
And they're getting on your list how?
They get on my list through a combination of, I'd say in order, referrals from emails I'm sending to current people on my list.
Okay.
We do some advertising, local space advertising, take a cover of the local, penny saver, glorified penny saver. Yeah. And that gets people either to workshops. Most of the time we're advertising workshops and they come on my list. and then they'll also get webinars because they're on my list. A fair amount of people, we asked them, how'd you hear about it? So a fair amount of people find us online just organically. A fair amount read the book, mostly the financial aid book. So I guess that's 4 strategies. And I'm not doing any AdWords these days. I found that was kind of expensive.
Are you getting new people through Facebook? Facebook Live at all? Like,
yeah.
They're just stumbling across you, or maybe being somebody shares a post or shares the.
We always ask people to share, like you are, and that has gotten us probably a handful each month. Not more than 20, probably between 5 to 10 to 12, something like that.
Yeah. Well, they add up over time. If you're doing a multiple different strategies, all those 5, 10s, 20s add up eventually. And
we're adding. I looked today in Entreport, and it looked like we had 186 new contacts this month, and today's the 20th or something, right? So, if we had 200 people, new people, not counting the attrition, but if we had 200 new people in a month or 300 people in a month, that's a big month for me in terms of how we market. But what has been on my back burner for a little bit is doing a Facebook campaign, which we tested before, and I just never really followed up with it. But I want to try to get some more opt-ins that way.
Right.
Like now, I have to do it. This is the time to do it.
Yeah, because this is your busy season, right? This is when you get a lot of people interested, or you guys are filling in applications or whatever.
Yeah, a lot of. It's just like in the fall in general, you've got seniors who are getting ready for stuff.
Yeah.
Like and you've got high school juniors who are just starting to take the ACT and the SAT standardized test scores.
Right.
So it's really like a very spastic hyper period.
Excellent. Well, I know you're busy. I know you got some college prep work to do. So I want to thank you, Andy, for very much for being on the show. Personally, thank you for sharing your stuff about webcasts and webinars and how you're doing it, and sort of the success that you're having, and even going into some of the details about the numbers. I'm going to post Andy's contact information in the comments field, as well as the show notes for today's webinar. So if you have any questions, you can just leave them in the Facebook comments section, or if you want to contact Andy directly to talk about webinars, or to any of the college prep stuff. If you have some kids looking to go to university or college in the U.S., definitely connect with Andy and see if there's anything he can do to help you out with regards to getting some financial aid. So everyone, show Andy some love by hitting that like button, love button, and be sure to share this with your friends, associates, on your business page, and let's just keep the show rolling and keep things going on. So Andy, it's been great having you on the show, and I definitely look forward to catching up with you again real soon. So everyone just stay tuned. I'll be right back in a few minutes with closing remarks. Thanks, Andy. Thank you for joining me on today's Business Strategy Show, where we focus on webinars, a specific strategy used for generating leads and converting those leads into buyers. Now, when it comes down to doing business, most times we do business with individuals within a business, not the business entity. Now, the more pleasing your personality, the more people will get to know you, like you, and trust you. Now, it's generally when people trust you that they're more comfortable to do business with you. Now, but there's more to it than just having a pleasing personality. You need to be very clear on your ideal target market, their pains, fears, frustrations, or ambitions, and be able to communicate to them how your solution is able to help them solve the problem. Now, a well-structured webinar, you can not only shorten that customer journey from knowing, liking, and trusting you, but you can also educate the viewer that you understand their challenges or struggles, and you have a solution that can help them. Now, a great webinar enables the viewer to interact with the presenter, ask questions, get feedback, and overcome the objections that may arise. Now, typically, a great webinar presentation is overcoming the objections that are built right into the presentation. Now, usually you do this by phrasing them as myths or calling them out during the presentation. Now, effective webinars are less about the tech and more about the structure of the presentation and the copy or presentation you're giving. Now, if you're using webinars as a sales piece, it's vital that you spend more time on the copy and the offer than you do worrying about having the high-end studio to work out of. Now, webinars are on the rise, and typically they're being used to demonstrate, teach, interact, and sell. Now, if you aren't using webinars in your business right now and want to understand how they can help you, and how to best structure a webinar that is compelling and leads the viewer to the conclusion that they need to either buy your products or services, then definitely contact me through my website at johnamccabe.com, or direct message me through my Facebook page at facebook.com, the John Anthony McCabe. Now, both links will be included in the comments of the video, as well as the show notes of the video. So thanks for joining us on today's show, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow when I have another great guest on to discuss their entrepreneur journey and accelerating their authority. So have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.